let's get into what I feel like people really want to hear about and discuss. These torpedo bats. What in the world? What in the world? I first of all didn't even know these were legal, but they are. Second of all, I mean, there's no way that, or maybe it is. Is this the sole reason we saw what we saw yesterday on Saturday with what was it? 9 home runs?
9
home runs, a new franchise record, I believe, or tied the franchise record.
New franchise record. It was the only
one short of the league record, I believe, right?
League record was 10.
10.
Which was the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays also did it at a different time with 9. In a different year. Obviously, the same game, they got both of those, but a different time, a different season, they got 9. So it was only the second time ever that a team has hit 9 home runs in a game. No, like and whoever is going to sit here and call me a homer, that's fine. But like Jazz and Volpe are the only ones that have come out and said that they're using it. Did they both go deep? Yes. Did one of them go deep again today? Yes.
Mere minutes ago.
But the reality is that like bats are always changing. They've always changed. They've always been adjusted. Barrel sizes come in a variety. All of these hitters have different sizing that they prefer, different handles, different knobs, different thicknesses. I think this is just one of the last remaining options as some type of adaptive adjustment. And what you're seeing here, for those that are unfortunately just listening audio, get on YouTube first of all, or join in on our stream.
Shout out
so you
YouTube.
Can see the video. But instead of the thicker part of the barrel being towards the end of the bat, it has now moved down lower than what your normal sweet spot would be and almost closer to the label. And during the broadcast yesterday, they were talking about how, our analytics are constantly adjusting mechanics now, and that there's different ways. You've seen pitchers change their grip or arm angle or, whatever to basically maximize their potential and whatever that endeavor is. But with these bats, they were saying is that like some of these guys like Jazz and Volpe, a lot of their contact has been lower on the label. So that the idea was to lower that sweet spot and bring it down. The barrel isn't any bigger. It's not illegal. Like you said, the sweet spot is just in a different place. And for those who have played, any of us that have had the chance to have a different type of bat, whether it's metal, whether it's wood, throughout our time of playing, like you kind of play around with what feels good, kind of play around with what feels comfortable. Do you like it end loaded? Do you like more weight in the hands? Do you, like how do you prefer it basically? And this is just an innovative way. Like I get that it is somewhat polarizing because of what team it's attached to. I get that it is polarizing because it may or may not be a coincidence that they just put up 9 home runs and 20 runs in a game. But this is legal. And, no one freaked out when axe handles started becoming a thing 5-6 years ago.
Good point.
You know what I mean? No one freaked out when knobs were completely removed. No one freaked out when giant knobs, where a lot of the weight sat in the hands, started coming out. No one's really talking about the transition from when we were kids. You watched a lot of ash bats being used, and that's why you had those blow up, splintered bats everywhere when bats broke. Now you just see barrels flying because a lot of these guys are using maple. So like bats are going to change throughout our game. You go back to, what's that video when Bryce was 16 swinging the Babe Ruth sized bat, where it's a 40-ounce bat, right? Like,
right.
Like, you know what I mean? So when we're talking about the equipment adapting to what the game style is, the reason those guys were using such heavier bats back in the day is because the velocity wasn't as high. Now that velocity is up, you're seeing a change to bats. I don't see the issue personally. And if you want to come at like me for being a homer, if you want to come at the Yankees for doing it, I think it was Savali that came out and said that because it's the Yankees, they'll let it slide. Like, what are we talking about? Like, every player has the ability to choose and customize their equipment in this way.
Well, Spencer in the chat, not to cut you off, Spencer in the chat did ask, he said, should everyone be required to swing the same model weight bat? And I didn't play at the big league level, but at the very least, I played competitive baseball. And I understand that would almost be an impossible ask to make a singular bat universal across the league in terms of specs and everything, because there is way too much nuance to, like you mentioned, the different types of wood, the where the weight is distributed, the flex that each bat has, whether it's more or less. There's so much at play there. That I think as long as you're meeting the specifications, the requirements set forth by the league, everything else is fair game. And
where does it
the
end?
Same thing applies to this torpedo thing.
Where does it end? Gloves, batting gloves, cleats. Where does it end? Are you talking about, if anybody watched any Cubs or Diamondbacks games this weekend, you saw that, Pete Crow Armstrong and Corbin Carroll wear like a lower, almost looking like a soccer cleat compared to some of these other guys that are like a lot of them you see like Jordans or like Air Force Ones or whatever. Like, there's a different style there. Are we talking about an advantage to their speed because of the type of cleats they're wearing? Should we change everyone from, molded spikes to metal spikes to like, what are we doing? I don't understand what the argument is. The beauty of our game is that it's done in so many different sizes. It's the beauty of our game is that a Jose Altuve can compete against an Aaron Judge. That's what the beauty of our game is. That's what encompasses this game. It's a mesh of athleticism compared to, when it comes down to it, it's just a ball and a stick against a hitter and a pitcher. Right? So like, where do we draw the line? Are you upset that an outfield glove is massive? I don't know. I watched Corbin Carroll yesterday and I swore that his glove is a 14-inch glove. It's huge. Right?
Well,
like,
he's a tiny guy, but yeah.
I don't understand why we're getting heated about this. I can see why it immediately raises eyebrows based on what they did yesterday offensively, but like, let's not take away from the fact that Judge had 3 of those and Judge ain't changing his bat.
Yeah. What was the quote? What was the quote from Judge? He said, what I've done, they asked him if he used the torpedo bat or why he didn't use it. And he said, what I've done the last few years speaks for itself.
Yeah.
In other words, saying like, thanks, but no thanks. Don't need it.
I don't know. Maybe be better, Brewers pitching. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, quite literally in the chat yesterday had more to do with poor pitching than it did with those new bats. Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, when you're, which we didn't even mention, but when you're Nestor Cortez just laying in 3 get me over,
like, that was tough, man.
My goodness, how do you do that? You know that lineup better than anybody on that staff. You got to know that what you did wasn't gonna work. That plan of attack was not gonna work. But yeah, anyway, enough on the torpedo bats. I feel like we covered most of that. And for the record, I'll speak for Nate, but I don't think Nate's frustration is with Spencer for asking the question about.
No, not at all. Spencer's my guy.
We love Spencer, but it's more of a question about the narrative. And I can't stand the Yankees as much as the next guy, but even I can look at this and go, if it adheres to the rules set forth by the league, that's where the conversation starts and ends. Right. That's where the conversation should start and end. Does it meet are there rules set in place? Do these bats adhere to those rules? If so, conversation's over. They were, like you said, first ones to do it. They were more creative that way, I guess.
Like we've seen a lot of this different type of stuff.
I have my own thoughts on the oven.
I don't love the oven mitt either. I think it bugs me, but again, like, if it adheres to the rule book, yeah, I'll let it slide.